Welcome back to ScreenRant. Avengers Endgame was the big blowout film for the original Avengers lineup. The film became a massive commercial and critical success in its opening weekend. But where does this leave us for the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Well, today we're going to look at some of the Avengers Endgame characters that had a small but vital role in the events of Endgame, as well as look at the characters that may become big players in the future of the MCU. So, let's get cracking! Kicking off our list is the man responsible for Marvel being the powerhouse it is today. Stan Lee was one of the creative forces that made Marvel Comics into a household name. Mr. Lee has made a cameo appearance in all 22 MCU films to date. With that number, he's the undisputed king of MCU cameos. His Endgame appearance has Stan Lee driving past the army base in 1970 and shouting, "Hey man, make love, not war!" Sadly, with Stan Lee passing away in 2018, his appearance in Endgame will be his final fun cameo. However, his influence on Marvel will last forever.
Enough said.
In 2015, comic fans were delighted at the appearance of Cassie Lang during Ant-Man's first MCU outing. In the comics, Scott Lang's daughter Cassie follows in her father's footsteps down the heroic path. She takes on the name of Stature as part of the Young Avengers. Later on, she partners with her pa as Stinger. However, in the MCU, she is far too young to go down that road yet. Now with Endgame jumping 5 years into the future, well, we now have a good chance of Cassie stepping out as a hero. Who knows, this could even bring in the Young Avengers onto the big screen. Brock Rumlow, also known as the skull-patterned mask-wearing villain Crossbones, had a rough time in his last appearance before Endgame. His actions inadvertently led to the heroes being divided in Captain America Civil War when a bomb plus Crossbones exploded in a residential tower with some help from Scarlet Witch and her telekinesis. Yet his brief appearance in Endgame has got a lot of fans salivating at Crossbones' potential return. Due to the Hulk traveling back in time to shortly after the events of the first Avengers film, we were given a scene with the Ancient One during Endgame. If you're drawing a blank, the Ancient One is paramount to Doctor Strange's development into the magic machine he becomes during the film Doctor Strange. During this scene, she lets slip some interesting information. She mentions that she knows about Stephen Strange's future, whilst at the time, he was still a practicing surgeon. This hinted that she knows a lot more than she's letting on. The Ancient One also simplified the rules of time travel in Endgame. Besides Steve Rogers, Rhodey is Tony Stark's other BFF. Just don't tell Happy Hogan that. During Endgame, Rhodey was pushed into being a compassionate voice for Black Widow as he tracks down a vengeful Hawkeye. Rhodey becomes an emotional support for the Avengers and Nebula as well. Rhodey and Nebula share a bond, as technology plays a big part in their respective physiologies. With Tony's demise in Endgame, there's now an Iron Man-shaped hole in the MCU. With Rhodey's vast experience using the War Machine armor and his outstanding military record, perhaps Rhodey will step into that role in honor of his friend's memory in the MCU. No one had high hopes for the return of the most dangerous woman in the universe after Infinity War. With Thanos tossing his adopted daughter off of a cliff in order to get the Soul Gem, Gamora's return was unlikely. However, thanks to time travel, past Gamora became a key component in Thanos' losing. After her doubts about Thanos were supported by present-day Nebula, Gamora switched sides and helped the Avengers. Gamora stopped past Nebula from acting out Thanos' plans. She even saved Peter Quill before kneeing him between the legs. Now that she's back in the MCU, we can expect to see her remain important for the Guardians of the Galaxy and the MCU at large. Doctor Strange went through 14,605 future scenarios during Infinity War. Only one of those showed the Avengers winning, but during Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet-powered snap, Strange was one of the characters to fade to dust. However, like all of the dusted characters, Strange appeared in the final battle with Thanos' forces. As a large pool of water came towards the battlefield, Strange used his powers to keep it at bay, potentially saving the lives of countless heroes. On top of that, he referenced the one scenario in which they win to Tony Stark. He held up one finger as he and Tony locked eyes. Former Captain America sidekick turned brainwashed assassin, Bucky has come a long way since his MCU debut. When he returned from the Dust Afterlife in the final battle, Bucky teamed up with Rocket to fight Thanos' forces. But it's when Steve Rogers goes back in time that Bucky really influences the future. As Bucky spots Old Man Rogers, he encourages Sam Wilson to go over and speak to him. Bucky knows exactly what Steve is gonna do, and he watches on proudly as Sam is offered the mantle of Captain America. Bucky will be standing by Captain America's side in the MCU's future and saving the world to make Steve proud. After Steve Rogers was frozen, he missed a dance and a life with Peggy Carter. After he was defrosted 70 years later, that opportunity had come and gone. But with Steve entering the quantum realm to replace the stolen Infinity Stones, Steve saw his chance to get that back. Peggy became a key but unexpected figure to the MCU's future. Steve went and had a life with Peggy, only returning to the present as an old man to pass on the Captain America mantle. Aside from the complication with time travel, Peggy inadvertently caused one of the MCU's OG Avengers to walk away and begin a new chapter for the Avengers. Wong is an underestimated magic user in the MCU. When the dusting was reversed by Hulk and the big battle began, Wong used his skills to teleport allies to battle. Without Wong, most of the teleporting would have fallen to Doctor Strange instead of splitting this task between them. Putting all that work just on Strange might have fatigued him, making him unable to hold up the large pool of water. Wong was also able to put up a protection spell as Thanos' ship rained missiles down. Wong saved the lives of many allies that day, but his very little screen time made many think otherwise. Frigga, Thor's mum, low-key saved her son and the rest of the universe. With Thor in a slump and resembling the Big Lebowski, he runs into his mother as he and Rocket are looking for the ether in the past. Frigga helps Thor get closure for her death and all the guilt from not being able to stop Thanos' snap in Infinity War. The newly inspired Thor was vital in delaying Thanos and initiating the downfall of Thanos' plan. Now that Thor is with the Guardians of the Galaxy, we will likely see Frigga's influence as Thor continues to grow in the MCU. Peter Parker saved everyone. As Cull Obsidian went to harm Iron Man, Spider-Man stepped in and stopped him. If he hadn't, Iron Man may not have been around to use the Gauntlet to save the world. But is Parker finished? Nope, he does more. As the Avengers were keeping the Gauntlet away from Thanos and his forces, Spider-Man was one of the heroes to also do so. He was swarmed by Thanos' forces, yet he still kept hold of the Gauntlet and fought back. He then passed the Gauntlet over to Captain Marvel. Agent Carter's Edwin Jarvis made a small but important cameo in Endgame. Jarvis is one of a very small number that has been on a Marvel TV show as well as in the MCU. Jarvis is a butler and friend to Howard Stark, Tony's daddy. We see Jarvis as Howard is getting into his car after meeting with Howard Potts. Tony Stark. So, what does this mean for the future? Well, this opens the door a little more for TV characters to drop into the MCU. Fingers crossed that next time we'll see the Runaways and Netflix's former Marvel characters on an MCU adventure. With the Netflix shows all cancelled, the whole MCU is open for them to appear and expand their roles from the small screen to the big screen. The potato gun-armed boy from Iron Man 3 made a small appearance near the end of Avengers Endgame. An older Harley Keener was spotted amongst the mourners at Tony Stark's funeral. At the time of Iron Man 3, Keener's presence suggested that a big role in the MCU may crop up for him. Instead, he was forgotten about, until, like Randy Orton's RKO, he came out of nowhere in Endgame. Stark and Keener shared a lot of similarities in their home lives and developed a bond as a result. Now that there's no Stark to put on the armor, Keener may be the one to honor his hero and strap on the Iron Man armor. Groot was another character to bite the dust during Infinity War. But before that happened, Groot would contribute to Thor and Captain America's involvement in defeating Thanos in Endgame. With Mjolnir destroyed by Hela and Thor Ragnarok, Thor created a new weapon, the Axe Stormbreaker. But it needed a handle, so Groot used a part of his body to create one. Without Stormbreaker, Thor wouldn't have been able to battle Thanos. On top of that, when Thor got Mjolnir back thanks to the time heist, Captain America wouldn't have picked up Mjolnir and fought Thanos. Groot's body saved the universe and was technically involved with every battle Thor was in. Now with the Avengers lacking Steve Rogers' leadership, the time has come for T'Challa to take on a large leadership role. Already a ruler of his nation Wakanda, the Black Panther can use his wisdom to steer the Avengers. At the final battle in Endgame, Black Panther showed us how good a leader he is by coordinating his forces in Wakanda. He brought them all to fight Thanos and his forces, turning the tide of the battle. With the huge success of the Black Panther film, Marvel will likely nudge Black Panther into the forefront of the MCU's plans after Endgame. With T'Challa's technology and leadership, the Avengers are gonna be just fine. Hawkeye was one of the major characters absent during Avengers Infinity War. Avengers Endgame would make up for this injustice. Opening with Clint Barton's family turning to dust after the snap, Clint would go on a rampage over the next 5 years. He would take up a costume that resembles his Ronin persona in the comics and deal out lethal justice across the world. His story arc would then turn to redemption as he aims to make amends during the later part of Endgame. Now that his best friend Natasha Romanoff is no longer in the Avengers picture, Clint's experience will be invaluable to the Avengers. Plus, as he was training his daughter with a bow, a lot of fans got giddy with the thought of Kate Bishop potentially coming in as Hawkeye as well. Pepper Potts was one of the main factors in keeping Tony Stark's ego in check. As Stark grew over the years in the MCU, one of the only constants in his life was Pepper. So much so that during the 5 years after the snap, he and Pepper would start their own family. Pepper would support Tony by appearing in an Iron Man-esque armor during the climactic battle in Endgame, a clear nod to the comics when Pepper became a hero known as Rescue. Will she want to have a regular role in the Avengers in Tony's memory as Rescue? Our smallest hero was also responsible for one of the biggest contributions in Endgame. After flopping out of the quantum realm, Scott Lang suggested that the Avengers could use it for a time heist and gather the Infinity Stones from different points in the past, thus setting the universe's revival in motion. Ant-Man was also responsible in saving the lives of the Hulk, Rocket, and Rhodey from drowning near the end of Endgame. He grew in size and freed the trapped heroes. With the Avengers now being one science-smart hero down, Scott Lang has the potential to step into that position. During Infinity War, little was known about the fate of Valkyrie, but she would pop up as a citizen in New Asgard during Endgame. Seemingly, Valkyrie was keeping the Asgardians in order as Thor was too drunk to rule. Valkyrie also got involved in protecting the Gauntlet from Thanos during the final battle, as well as fight his forces. Due to her consistency, Thor decided to abdicate from ruling New Asgard and pass the responsibility to Valkyrie. With New Asgard residing on Earth, or Midgard if you're an Asgardian, we will see a lot more of Valkyrie as she steers her people into uncharted waters. The daughter of Tony Stark and Pepper Potts would pull on our heartstrings during an already emotional film. Morgan's presence is enough to influence Tony into his sacrifice. Without his daughter to protect, perhaps Tony wouldn't have taken on his lethal burden. While Morgan is a little on the young side to follow her father's legacy, we may see her have some involvement if more time travel shenanigans come into play, or perhaps as a reminder to Stark's contribution. Comic book fans know just how powerful the Scarlet Witch can be. A few simple words from her can turn a powered race of mutants to near extinction. The MCU finally gave us a taste of her potential. After she arrived into the final battle, Wanda would go face to face with the Mad Titan Thanos. After what Thanos did to Vision in Infinity War, Wanda was looking for revenge. Her emotional state seemed to boost her powers as she was able to overcome Thanos. With this sort of power level now into effect in the MCU, the Scarlet Witch will be a huge asset to the Avengers and for her own adventures on the Disney Plus series WandaVision, especially now that she's avenging her brother Quicksilver and her love, Vision. Howard Stark was a huge influence in Tony's life. He inspired his son into following the scientific life. However, due to Howard's commitment to his work, he also neglected his son emotionally. This led Tony to keep everyone at arm's length. However, during the time heist, Endgame gave Tony a chance to speak with his dad for the final time. Unknowingly speaking to his son, Howard would impart some wisdom to Tony that would push him to make the ultimate sacrifice. Tony was able to say to Howard all the things that he hadn't been able to before, giving him a clear, hopeful mind to save the universe. Another victim of the Thanos snap, Sam Wilson would make his dramatic return during the big battle. But what's more important is what happened near the end. With the return of Old Man Rogers from the time stream, Rogers could no longer be Captain America. Taking a note from the comics, Rogers decided to pass on the shield to Sam. Going forward, Sam Wilson will be the new Captain America in the MCU. Sam has a lot of legacy to live up to. To finish off our list, we had to add the one character that saved the universe but didn't get any credit. As Ant-Man was stuck in the quantum realm and believed to be dust by the Avengers, he had no hope of returning. Until our mighty rat friend happened to stand on a button that released him. which then had a domino effect to the Avengers beating Thanos. Does the rat tell everyone? No. It's humble about its involvement in saving trillions of lives. Is this more humiliating for Thanos than being arrested by the NYPD? Well, we'll leave that up to you. And that's our list. Which of these characters are you most excited about in the MCU's future? Did we miss out on any? Drop your thoughts into the comments below. And don't forget, true believers, to subscribe to ScreenRant to keep up to date with our videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.